I've worked the graveyard shift at WKR for 7 years. Midnight to 4 a.m., the hours when the city feels half dead, and when only long-haul truckers, insomniacs, and the broken-hearted tune in. It was raining, heavy and relentless, against the tall windows of the station. I was halfway through spinning an old blues record when the call light blinked on. I picked it up, expecting the usual drunk dial. "WKR," I said. "You're live on air." The voice on the other end was small, trembling.
Please, help me.
It was a little girl. She sounded no older than 8. "Hey," I said gently, lowering the fader so the music filled the silence. "What's your name?"
He won't let me out. Please, it's dark.
A chill rippled through me. The rational part of my brain scrambled for answers. It may be a prank, but the desperation in her voice cut deep. "Where are you?" I asked.
In the walls, I can't breathe.
Static cracked across the line, and for a moment I thought she was gone. But then came a sob, muffled and raw. I pulled up the number on the caller ID. "Stay with me," I said into the mic. "I'm going to get you help. Just tell me where you are."
I'm at the station. I never left.
And the line went dead. I stared at the receiver as there was something about that number kept gnawing at me. I pulled up the archives, a messy drawer of station records and dusty Rolodex cards, and then I found it. The number matched a call-in contestant from 1995, a girl named Emily Rains. My blood went cold. Emily had died here. I'd heard fragments of the story from older staff, always whispered, always cut short. Emily was 9, a contest winner who got to visit the station during a late-night broadcast. But something happened. The details were blurred by time and sealed by silence. She disappeared during the show, and in the morning, they found her dead. The official record said, "Accident, a fall in the maintenance shaft." But even then, there were whispers about strange calls the DJ received that night, about sounds caught on air no one could explain. And now her number had called me. The booth felt suddenly smaller and the shadows heavier. I put on another record, something upbeat to steady my nerves, and stepped into the hallway. The building was old, too large for one man at night. Corridors stretched empty, humming with fluorescent lights that flickered at the edges. As I passed the wall by Studio B, I heard a muffled cry. I stopped and pressed my ear close. A voice leaked through the wall, thin and muffled. A child's voice.
Please, help me.
My skin tightened as I stumbled back. The sound followed me, faint but persistent, like it was crawling along the inside of the walls, keeping pace with me as I moved. I retreated to the booth, slamming the door shut behind me. The mic was still live. My listeners, if there were any, heard the quick hitch in my breath. I tried to recover, my voice steadying as I announced the next track, and then the phone rang again. I picked it up with trembling fingers.
Please, don't let him find me.
"Who?" I asked. Static swallowed the line. Then,
He's still here.
the words came not just through the receiver, but also through the speakers in the booth, and for a moment, it felt like the entire station was speaking with her voice. I slammed the line closed, but the silence that followed was worse. I told myself to walk out and leave the shift unfinished, but something tethered me there, something heavier than fear. I had to know. I dug deeper into the archives, dusty clippings stored in a forgotten cabinet, and there it was, a yellowed article from 1995. Local girl dies at radio station. 9-year-old Emily Rains found in shaft. Below it was a black and white photo of her. Pretty little girl with round cheeks and a ribbon in her hair, but her eyes seemed almost alive on the page, pleading across 30 years. The article mentioned the DJ at the time, Martin Hale. He was fired after the incident, and he had vanished from public record. Rumors swirled that he'd locked her in as a prank, or worse, that it hadn't been an accident at all. I folded the clipping with shaking hands. and that's when the studio lights went out. Darkness swallowed me. The rain outside seemed louder. In the glass reflection, I thought I saw movement, a small shape standing just behind me. The phone rang again. In the pitch black, the red light pulsed like an open wound, and I lifted the receiver slowly. This time the voice was different. A male.
"You shouldn't have answered,"
he said as the line clicked dead. The light on the phone is now blinking, but I haven't picked it up again. Because if I do, I know whose voice I'll hear. And I know she's not calling for help. She's calling me inside. I never believed in ghosts. I still don't think I do. Not exactly. What happened that night wasn't haunting in the usual sense. It was something older, stranger, and worse. But if I tell you about it, you might think otherwise. I was working the midnight shift at BKS, a small independent radio station tucked in the second floor of an old brick building downtown. The place was a relic. Half the boards rattled when you brushed them, the carpet smelled like old cigarettes, and the equipment had been patched together so many times it was more tape than metal. I was the sound engineer that night, running the commercials and keeping the playlists tight, making sure the late-night host didn't ramble too far off script. Midnight to 4 a.m. was dead air in every sense. Nobody listened, nobody cared, and half the time I killed the silence by playing B-sides I liked. But that night, the silence wouldn't stay silent. The first time I heard it was during the 2-second gap between commercials. Instead of dead air, there was a faint hiss like wind through a vent. Then a murmur so low I almost thought it was bleed from another frequency. Just 2 words.
"Not long."
I leaned in close to the monitor. Maybe I'd misheard. Maybe some ham radio operator was bleeding into our frequency. It wouldn't be the first time interference crept in. In the next gap, it happened again. This time it was clearer.
"Kara hides the pills in her locker."
Kara was our evening DJ. Nobody was supposed to know about her painkillers. She'd been limping since a car accident last year. She had kept it quiet, worried the station would cut her if they knew, and I only knew because I'd seen her pop them when she thought no one was watching. The hair rose on my arms. I scanned the levels, checked the channels, and muted everything. When the silence came again, the murmur slid through, steady and unmistakable.
"Howard's heart is ready to stop."
Howard was the station manager, overweight, 58, and always red in the face. He brushed off health scares like gnats, but I'd seen him clutch his chest more than once climbing the stairs. By the third break, the murmurs were deliberate, almost conversational, telling things I shouldn't know. Each time I muted the board or pulled plugs, the voice came, filling only the quiet. At 1:15 a.m. I heard my name.
"Evan drinks alone in his apartment."
I froze, and my throat went dry. I'd been careful. I never mentioned it at work, but it was true. Most nights after my shift, I sat with a bottle until the sun came up. My father had done the same until it killed him. I whispered back, "Who are you?" No response, just silence. Then, another message.
"Howard. His heart will stop tomorrow at 2:12 p.m.
The precision made my stomach knot, and I wrote it down, the pen shaking in my hand.
"Kara. She will crash her car on Thursday at 7:46 p.m.
I stared at the console, my reflection ghostly in the dark glass. I should have walked out right then, but I didn't. I couldn't. Then the messages were rapid, names tumbling out, secrets uncoiling like wires sparking in the dark. About interns cheating on exams, the janitor's gambling debts, the late-night host's affair. I wrote them all down, a notebook full of dates and deaths. Then the voice said, my name again.
"Evan. He will not leave this building alive."
I shoved the chair back so fast it toppled. My pulse thundered in my throat. "No," I whispered. "What the?" I grabbed my jacket, notebook, and keys, but when I tried the door, it wouldn't budge. Jammed from the other side, I rattled it until my palms ached and sweat dripped into my eyes. The voice swelled in the silence, no longer hiding between commercials. It filled every corner of the room, spilling from the monitors, the vents, and even the walls themselves.
Don't run. Don't fight. You wanted the truth.
I pressed my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The voice was inside my head. It laughed at me and repeated my secrets. It told me things I hadn't admitted even to myself. The red on-air light blinked without me touching the board. The microphone live, and I heard my voice. Except it wasn't me speaking. It was something using my tone, my breath. "Good evening, listeners," it said. "Tonight, we tell you how it ends." And then it began listing names. Not just staff, listeners, people I didn't know. Accidents that hadn't happened yet. Murders, suicides, fires. Each prediction read in my voice. I tore at the power switch, yanked cords, even pulled the breakers on the wall. The station went dark, except for the red on-air light, fed by nothing I could cut. The next shift should be coming in soon, if they can even get through the door. My notebook lies open on the console, and I can see the last thing I wrote. Evan, 4:17 a.m. That's 4 minutes from now. I don't know what's going to happen, but the silence is deepening. And I can hear the voice, closer than ever, breathing right against my ear. I never thought the night shift at PRM would change my life, but that's exactly what happened. I'm a late-night DJ. The station's little more than a skeleton crew and a dusty studio on the edge of town. Most nights I talk to nobody, just me, my vinyls, and the faint hum of the transmitter. I like it that way. Silence is comforting when the rest of the world is asleep. It started on a Tuesday. I was spinning some slow blues, the kind that makes you feel like the world's gone soft around the edges. When the phone rang, the caller ID said private. I answered. The voice was quiet, like it was coming from the bottom of a well.
Can you play Ashes in the Wind? I'm on Maple Street.
Maple Street? That was odd. Maple Street had been gone for years, torn down after the fire in '98. I remember the news, the bodies, the smell of charred wood and scorched metal. Maple Street? I asked. That street doesn't exist anymore. I played the song anyway. By midnight, I had 3 more calls, each from streets that had been obliterated by floods, fires, even a gas explosion. I asked each caller where they were calling from. The answer was always the same: somewhere destroyed, gone, erased. I laughed nervously on the air. Okay, folks, either someone's very creative with old maps, or we're having a weird night.
Can you play Silent River for us? We're on Elm Avenue.
Lonely Shadows, please. We're in Westfield Heights.
Empty lights. We live in Cedar Court.
All streets wiped off the map years ago. At first, I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe an elaborate prank. Maybe someone found the old addresses in an archive. But then, I started noticing something about the songs themselves. Each track seemed chosen not just to be nostalgic, but to trigger a memory. One of my memories. Ashes in the Wind reminded me of my mother's funeral. Silent River of my high school sweetheart moving away. Lonely Shadows of nights I'd spent alone drinking. I didn't mention it on air, but I felt my chest tightening every time I cued a record. Then the callers stopped being polite. They knew me.
Don't look behind you, Dave.
I froze. I used a stage name, and I hadn't told anyone my real name. The studio grew cold, and the lights flickered. The vinyl crackle sounded like whispers in the spaces between tracks. I thought that if I ignored the calls, they'd stop. I thought I was losing my mind, but I told myself it was stress or loneliness. But then I saw them. At first, I thought it was a reflection on the glass of the control board. Shadows moving behind me in the studio, perfectly synchronized with the songs. Faces, but not human faces. Pale, blurred like photographs damaged by fire, and they were smiling. I tried to call the station manager. The line was dead. The internet was gone. Even my phone didn't work. Just static. The longer I stayed on air, the more insistent the calls became, but the requests stopped being songs. They became demands.
Dave, stand in the corner.
Turn to your left, Dave. Wave.
Come closer and sit.
I thought about running. I wanted to run, but every step toward the door felt like walking through water. Slow, heavy, impossible. And then I realized the door wasn't there anymore, and where the entrance had been was only darkness. The vinyls spun themselves and the console flickered, the mic glowing red, alive without me touching it.
You belong to us, Dave.
By 4 a.m., the entire studio was wrong. It stretched wider than the building, taller than the ceiling. Shadows danced across walls that didn't exist before. I could hear hundreds of voices layered together, singing, laughing, crying. They weren't asking for songs or issuing demands anymore. They were summoning me. I screamed, but my voice was swallowed by the static. I tried the console, the switches, the mic, but everything was frozen, except for the music echoing endlessly. But now the songs carried words, my name in the lyrics, my memories, my regrets, my fears.
We've been listening, Dave, and now it's time you listen to us forever.
I fell to my knees. The vinyls spun faster, 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 voices merging into a roar that shook the building to its foundations. My reflection in the monitor, I couldn't see myself. Only them. Pale faces, burned smiles, empty eyes. I reached out and tried to close the record player, but it wouldn't stop. And then the last thing I remember was a hand, cold as winter soil, resting on my shoulder, speaking in my ear, right into my skull.
Welcome home, Dave.
I woke up on the station floor the next morning. It was silent, the console cold, and the chairs in place. The streets outside were normal. But now, every night, just after midnight when no one's around, I still get a call from a voice asking for a song from a neighborhood that no longer exists. I never thought I'd regret being a radio DJ, not in the decade I've spent behind the mic. But after that night at WFLY, I understand fear in a way that sticks to your bones. It began like any other evening. The station was buzzing with excitement because we were running a live call-in contest, a cash giveaway spectacular. Huge prizes worth thousands of dollars guaranteed to draw a crowd. The phones were lit like Christmas trees, blinking red and yellow. I sat in the control room, headphones snug, mic ready, pretending I wasn't nervous. The stakes were high, and we'd done these contests before. People loved them. All right, folks, I announced, my voice steady. We're giving away $10,000 tonight. 10 grand to one lucky caller. Pick up your phone, and you could be our next big winner. The lines lit up. I patched the first caller through, some guy named Mark from Eastside. He sounded thrilled. I asked him the trivia question. He got it right. Congratulations, Mark. $10,000 is yours. We cheered on the air. The listeners cheered. Mark's voice cracked with excitement. But then, the scream. It came seconds after we cut to the break. A high-pitched, jagged scream, like someone ripped their own throat open. The feed went dead for a second, then a low static hiss replaced it. Everyone in the studio froze. The engineers looked at each other, pale. Probably a prank, I said, my throat tight. Must be Mark messing with us. The station manager agreed, though she looked uneasy. Get the next caller. Keep the show moving. We patched in the second winner, Jessica from Northfield. She was ecstatic, practically bouncing in her chair. Another trivia question, another correct answer, another announcement on air. And then, silence. No scream this time, Just silence. I reached for the switchboard to fade her out, and when I tried, the line was dead. Completely dead. Not even a dial tone. She probably had technical issues. Everyone has bad connections. It's normal. But then the third winner vanished, and the fourth, and the fifth. By the sixth call, the panic in the studio was palpable. Each winner celebrated, laughed, promised to spend the money wisely, and then gone. Phones disconnected, no trace. I called emergency numbers, searched addresses. Nothing. Not a footprint, not a call, not a single neighbor reporting anything unusual. I tried to block the calls, shut down the contest, but the phones kept ringing. The voices were eager, desperate. I want to win. I want it now. I kept checking the monitor. As the clock ticked past midnight, the studio lights flickered, and then I heard it again. The scream, this time over the intercom, cutting off mid-word, jagged, like a record scratched by claws. By morning, the station tried to bury it. Press release, prank calls, technical difficulties. They said the show would continue and that we'd get winners soon enough, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Then came the emails from the winners, the ones who had vanished. Short messages. We're happy here. You'll see soon. Don't worry about us. Just listen. I tried deleting and ignoring them. I shouldn't have. The next week, the pattern repeated. Winners called. The screams on air were louder, longer, sometimes distorted. I begged the station to stop. The management laughed. Ratings are through the roof, they said. By the third week, I realized what was happening. Each winner was gone. Not just offline or missing, taken. I tried quitting. They said I couldn't. Contracts, obligations, the usual corporate chains. But it wasn't just paperwork anymore. There was something in the studio, watching me, testing me, enjoying the fear I could not hide. Last night, I answered the phone, and my hands shook so badly I could barely hold the receiver. The caller's voice was low, smooth, almost familiar. You've heard the screams. You've seen the winners vanish. Now it's your turn. Step up to the mic, Harry. Step up. I hung up, trembling, and turned off the console. The lights flickered and died. Silence. But I know it's not over. The studio keeps pushing. Next winner, step up. The phones are already ringing. The light over the mic glows red. Steady. Waiting. The chair across from me is empty, but I feel the weight of someone sitting there, watching. The line keeps flashing, and I can't ignore it anymore, so I reach for the receiver. WFLY, I whisper, voice shaking. You're on the air.